Okay, so for this lesson, this is chapter 4. We're going to be using color a lot and figuring out how to use the live paint bucket, which is probably quite a bit different than how you're used to using a typical paint bucket. We're going to use gradients, and we're going to start off using the appearance panel. So I'm just going to exit out of this document that I'm working on, and so here's a blank screen. So you're going to go File, New, and we're going to call this Appearance. Make sure you spell it right. And the profile will be Print if it wasn't already. We're not going to make any other changes. You can go ahead and hit OK. And so we have this blank page here. So we are going to create a shape, and you're going to be creating a star shape. So you're going to click and hold on the shape tool there and click star, and just click and drag a star shape. It doesn't matter how big it is. You can move it if it's bugging you, and just a simple star. If your fill and stroke are set to colors other than white fill and black stroke, then go ahead and hit the D on the keyboard, and that just resets your colors to the default. And so it should be white fill, black stroke. That's your default setting. Then we're going to open the Appearance panel, which, if you're unfamiliar with the icons, it's this one that is a circle with like a dashed line around it, similar to a sun perhaps. Or you could go up to Window and check Appearance, and then it shows up. You can adjust the size of the panel if you can't see everything. And so that's what it looks like. Yours might look like that, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, and the Appearance panel is nice because we can isolate the stroke or the fill and make effects onto one or both of those, like you've done in the previous lesson. And let's see, so we're going to click on the stroke line so that that is selected, and then we're going to change the color of the stroke by pulling open the swatches panel that's under stroke. And we're going to pick this red, CMYK red, for that. Just click to close that box. And then we're going to click on Fill and change this color as well to CMYK yellow. And my star was not selected, so it did nothing. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, that's more like it. You have to select it to affect it. Number 1 rule in Illustrator. Okay, so we're going to go back and select the stroke again. If you click on stroke, then you get this panel that pops up that we don't really want to use. So you just need to click somewhere in the blank area of that line. And we are going to add an effect. So one way you can do that is come down here to the Effects and Stylize, Drop Shadow. Okay, so you can just leave the settings where they are. We're not really going to change anything right now, just so you can see what it looks like. There's a very faint shadow showing up. It's kind of a purple color because that's just what it was. And if we pull down this arrow next to stroke, you can see that drop shadow is now in there. And so what's nice about that is you could delete it if you wanted to by just clicking and dragging it to the trash can, or we can edit that drop shadow if it's not exactly how you want it to be. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to edit the drop shadow just by clicking on that word drop shadow. And so I'm going to type in 100% for opacity. For my X, I'm going to scroll down to 3 points, and Y is also 3 points. You could also type it. And then blur will be 1 point. And we're going to change the color. So you just click on the box that says color. And I don't care what color you make it. I'll make mine green. And hit OK. You could preview it. It just looks like a thin line. And hit OK. So not too exciting. So that's just, how you can use the appearance panel with shapes. Okay, so you're done with this. This was just a quick example. You're not going to turn that in, so you can just close out of that. Save it in your documents, wherever it is that you put things. Your screen's going to look different than mine. I'm just going to stick mine on the desktop so I don't waste time. Alright, so now you're going to go File and Open. Well, actually I'm just going to show you the document, which is in the shared drive. Okay, so that's the document. That's the example that we'll be working with. So my son calls those hippie buses, but he's only 2. I guess VW vans or whatever they are. In Illustrator it's called a retro bus. Okay, so that's the example. And so you're going to go File, New, and you will not have that file in there, so you'll just be starting here. So it's AI 0402 underscore work underscore your first name. Okay, so remember you get 2 points just for naming it correctly. Okay, we're going to make it a print profile if it's not there already, and you're going to change your units to inches. And again, it changes your profile to custom, but that's the only thing that's different is just our units, so it just can't call it print because it's not exactly print. But it's the main thing is that the color mode is CMYK, the points per inch is 300, which is the resolution. Those are the 2 main things that we care about. So we could hit OK, but I do want to point out at this time just one thing. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. So, never mind. It's not in there anyway. So, we'll just hit OK at this point. And you will want to hit D on the keyboard to reset your fill and stroke to the default if they are not already. So white fill, black stroke. I'm going to close that back up, and I am going to make sure that my fill color is on top, because based on my last drawing that I was doing, my stroke color was on top. So fill is on top. Alright, so let's see. We are going to go and select an ellipse. If you're getting more familiar with the keyboard, using the keyboard, you would type L. And it's not case sensitive, so you can just type L. It doesn't matter if it's capital L or lowercase. And then we're just going to click and release. And we're going to type in our settings. 5 and 5. So it's a 5-inch diameter circle. Alright, so we are going to select it. You saw that I switched to my selection tool. I moved my circle to the centrally located position. Then I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and the Alt key clones it. And then I'm going to click and drag until both my numbers are approximately 0.25. Close enough. And then I'm going to go back to the first one and clone that to the left a little bit until those are approximately 0.25. Okay. So I have 3 ellipses that are just slightly offset from each other. And so I'm going to select all 3 of these, and the easiest way to do that is just to click and drag a marquee that touches 3 of them, and it doesn't need to go over the whole thing, it just has to touch them. And then in my fill color, I'm going to change my color to none so that I can see through my objects. So it looks like I just got a bunch of lines. So now there's no fill. So again, I'm on the selection tool. I can't select anything like in here. I have to go to the line of the shape because that's the only place that has any color or substance to it for me to grab. Okay, so we're going to use the Live Paint tool, which is a little bit weird in Illustrator. Alright, so I want to select all 3 of those. And then under the Shape Builder, we have the Live Paint bucket. So that's what we want. Okay. And when you come over here, it says click to make a live paint group. So we can go ahead and just click anywhere because all 3 of them are selected. So now it's converted this whole group into different sections that I could fill with different colors. It's pretty easy to do, but you have to make it a live paint group first. So we're going to open up our swatches panel, and I'm just going to undock it so that it stays open for me. So I just clicked and drag it away from my panels over here. And I'm going to choose the color CMYK red. And then I'm going to come over here and choose that one. Doesn't matter which one. One of these outer parts of the circle. You know which one you're about to click because it shows up in red. And the thing I'm looking for is where that little triangle is on my cursor, not where the paint is or where the bucket is. It's the little triangle that's determining where I'm selecting. So I'm going to make the next one CMYK yellow, and I can choose that color. So I'm hovering over a new space. I can just hit my right arrow, and so whatever color's in the middle of those 3 there, that's what I'm going to use to paint with. So then I can select that. And then I'm just going to scroll over to the green and do a green one there. I'm going to make green over here too, just because. I'll do blue here, and then I'll do red again. Why not? So we're going to do a file, save as, and you're going to put this in your documents. You should have an Intro to Computer Graphics folder. I know mine looks different than yours. Let me just make I'll just make mine look the same real quick. Whoops. Okay, well, whatever. Illustrator. And this will be chapter 4. Okay, so that's where you would put it. Hit OK. Okay, so just to kind of reset everything, if you go up to Essentials, Reset Essentials, it just cleans up your panels if you've done anything weird. Alright, so now we're going to use symbols. Symbols are kind of awesome in Illustrator. There's a bunch of stuff in here that's already created, sort of like clip art, that is copyright free that you can use in your drawings. So our symbols are over here. It looks like a 3-leaf clover. And you're probably like, oh, great, there's only 6. That's awesome. The opposite of awesome, I should say. But there's a whole bunch more in here. You just have to know how to get to them. So if we go to the panel menu, which is this guy up here, and there's a panel menu on every panel. So if I go to color, there's a panel menu. If I go to swatches, there's a panel menu. So I'll be using that term a lot, the panel menu. And you click on that, and you go to Open Symbol Library. And so we have all these libraries in here, and they all have their own batch of symbols. So we're going to click on Retro. Okay, so we have these symbols, these pieces of clip art that we can use that are in this retro category. Alright, and so right here, let me just move this over. The first column, first column. You're going to click and drag that minibus onto the artboard. So there is our hippie bus, as my son would say. Alright, so we're going to go to the selection tool at this point, and you're going to move this so that it's sort of centrally located. And then we're going to, instead of grabbing a corner and increasing the size, we're going to use the scale tool. So we're going to scale this right here. You could type S on the keyboard if you're having trouble finding it. And then we're actually, if we double click on the tool itself, we get the dialog box that we're looking for. And then under uniform, you're going to type 175. Let's see, and then yes, it should be 175 for horizontal and 175 for vertical. Everything else looks good. And then we'll hit OK. So that looks good. That's how I want you to increase the size of your bus. I don't want you to pull a corner and drag it yourself. Alright, so you've got your bus in there. So at this point we have this symbol in here, but we can't edit it until we make one change. And so to be able to edit a symbol, you have to expand it, and that's found under Object and then hit Expand. And we can just hit OK. Alright, so now if you were to click on an individual, well, it's still a group. So if we wanted to click on something individually, we'd have to use, let's see, let me just zoom in. So it's still a group. I think we're going to ungroup it here in a second. So I just wanted to point out that if you use the regular selection tool on this, it still selects the whole thing, which is not exactly what we want. Okay, so we're going to deselect. So Shift Control A, or just click somewhere in the white space so that you're not grabbing anything. I don't think I need this open anymore, so I'm going to close those up. And we're going to double click the fill color down here, which is just another way of choosing color. And we're going to type in specific numbers. So there's a lot of websites out there that have like certain colors that go well together, and they give you a formula for those. And so you could type them in. So for C, which is our cyan, we're going to type 0. Magenta will be 70. Yellow is 100, and the black is 0. And so we should get an orange color. Yep. And then we're gonna, I guess we do need to open swatches. I'm just gonna pull that down a little bit. And we are gonna type, we're gonna go to our new swatch icon, which is the sky. And the color is there, but we don't want to leave it this formula. Okay, that was loud. We're going to call it, what does it want? Hippie Orange. And then we want to check the box next to Global. And here in a second I'll talk about what that means. So we haven't changed anything. We haven't changed the formula. We just changed the name to something that means something. Okay, so when we have a global color, there's this white triangle that appears in the corner of it. So even if I click off of it, you can see there's a white triangle down there. It used to just be a little tiny one, and it looks like CS6 has increased the size of that triangle, which is great. So it's easier to see which ones are global and which ones are not. Okay, so we have that color added in there. And we are going to go to the group selection tool, which was under the direct selection. Group selection. And so we're going to click a shape, maybe this, and change it to that orange color that we just created. So we're going to also change 3 other colors. 3 other shapes, excuse me, to that hippie orange color. So you should have 4 total. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to deselect. Okay, so now that you've got your 4 shapes that you designated as your hippie orange, if you make sure that you're not selected on anything, you could do Shift Control A just to make sure. Double click on your hippie orange. There we go. And then we'll make a change here. So this is how a global color works. If I change my magenta to 50 instead of 70, it's going to change. It's hard to tell. I should have done more. It changes that one instance, or not the one instance, it changes every instance of where I had that color. It changes all of those at one time. So if it's a global color, if you make one change, let me just make something more dramatic. Do 20 for the yellow. So now it's more of a pink. So it changes all of those areas. Instead of just that one color, or the one place you had that color, it changes every area just in this file. It wouldn't change it in like a different file or something like that. It's just this isolated to what you're working on. But that's what a global color is. It's just every place that you've used it, you can make changes to it all at once. Alright, so now we're going to select the purple windshield, the purple part of the windshield. And to make a selection, I think we've used this once before, we go to Select, Same, and then we're going to choose Fill Color. So everywhere else that fill color is being used will automatically be highlighted for me. So it looks like it's just 3 places. So that's an easy way to select things in a drawing like this where there's a lot of small shapes and things like that, and colors that are very similar to one another. Okay, so with those objects selected, I'm going to create another new swatch and call this one Hippie Purple. And so the only thing I'm changing is the name. Also going to make sure that it's global. Then I'm going to hit OK. Alright. Okay, so when I go to grade these, I'm going to be looking to make sure that there's certain colors that are global in your swatches panel. Okay, so now we're going to organize some of these swatches into a color group. So I'm going to, Hippie Purple's already selected. I'm going to hold down Control and select Hippie Orange, although it's not exactly orange anymore. The CMYK Yellow, the CMYK Cyan, and the CMYK Magenta. So those 5 colors. Then I can release Control. They're still selected. And then I'm going to create a new color group, which is this folder shape here. So click that, and you're going to type Retro Colors. And it should be Selected Swatches, and then OK. So now I have this group of colors that I could use in other drawings, or just I've created a new library type of thing. And it's just also easier to find those colors. Like if I'm using certain colors in a drawing, I would want to make a group so that they're all in a row, so that I don't have to search around for them anymore. Alright, so we're going to go back to the selection tool and click on my ellipses. Not the hippie bus, but just the ellipses. And then we're going to click on the new color group again. And then we're going to make this one base colors. And then we want selected artwork, and those should both be checked. Yes. Alright, so now we have another group that is the colors that we used in our initial circles there. Just do a quick save at this point. Make sure you don't lose anything. Okay, you could always add a color to one of these groups if you just clicked and dragged into the folder. We're not going to do that, but just letting you know that you could.